how American Southerners, rural folks, country folks are marginalized in this country.
Now, some of y'all that's followed me for a while understand that I sound like this when I talk about North Carolina. And some of y'all understand that this is actually where I come from, that I sound like this if I am in North Carolina, if I'm around my people. And yet, most of y'all hadn't heard this if you're new to me. You hadn't heard me talk like this because fundamentally I don't talk like this most of the time. Because if I'm talking about intellectual concepts and I sound like this, most of y'all have been looking at me like, what the hell? Most of y'all will be looking at me like, what the fuck is this person talking about? I don't think that this person actually has the qualifications they say they do. But if I adapt my accent and I begin speaking like this and I start telling you about the intricacies of social dynamics, this is the accent I learned to have by listening to academics and other people present information in the world. This is the accent I learned to protect myself because fundamentally sounding the way that I grew up did not sound appropriate to the rest of the world. I learned early that sounding like this was the way I had to sound to be taken seriously, even in academia within Southern contexts. To be intellectual was to not be Southern. If I start talking like this, and I start telling you about how social rules go, and this is how social stuff happens, right? Like there's a hierarchy, you're going to look at me like I've lost IQ points. And that's sort of the problem here, because when I speak like this, more people hear me. When I speak like this, more people take me seriously. And yet it is not what my natural accent was. Because by the time I was 18, I fundamentally had purposefully had to create a different way of speaking. And then when I joined the military and traveled around the country, I picked up accents where I was. So now I have words that sound all sorts of locations because fundamentally I've been in Texas and Washington and Ohio and Maryland and Virginia and all sorts of places. But if I talk about North Carolina immediately brings me right back to my home. And that's where I start sounding like I'm supposed to sound. But that's the thing, I don't sound like this most of the time anymore because I've been masking so long that most of the time this don't come out. Even my husband had not heard me talk like this. My husband, who has been with me for 18 years, had not heard me talk like this on the regular until we traveled North Carolina together. Because fundamentally, when I'm there, that's what I sound like. But here, I don't sound like that. Because I have had to mask for so many years of my life about how I sound because this accent is seen as lesser, less intelligent automatically, less refined, less acceptable, less good. Because fundamentally the idea is, well, you must be some ass backwards hick. But fuck that. Because even now, when I am in these supposedly progressive spaces that care so deeply about social justice, they don't give a rat's ass about the rural people. They don't give a rat's ass about the people I come from. They don't care. They don't care because they are willing to throw us in the garbage and say that we vote against our own interests, despite the fact that statistics don't even support that shit. That it's mostly the people cosplaying country in the fucking high-level suburbia bullshit, that they're the ones who are voting all of these people in. And they typically have money. They typically have the kind of money and education that aren't even part of the standard rural experience, that aren't part of this country. It has become a fetishized cosplay, and exactly what Gene Lee's been saying about this shit, because a lot of people are just willing to dehumanize entire swaths of the population. And fuck that noise. Fuck all of that shit.